Bernard Sanders has unquestionably stepped up his game, and it seems like at least twice a week he's releasing new policies that are more sweeping, more progressive, more robust than they were before. And this week is no different. So he just released a Housing for All plan that would change so many lives that as I read through the details of this plan, it actually gave me chills. So as Tell Axelrod of The Hill reports, White House hopeful Senator Bernie Sanders on Wednesday released a $2.5 trillion plan to guarantee housing for every American. Sanders said the plan would guarantee every American, regardless of income, a fundamental right to a safe, decent, accessible, and affordable home, and would be paid for by a wealth tax on the top 0.1% of income earners. There is virtually no place in America where a full-time minimum wage worker can afford a decent two-bedroom apartment at a time when half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. This is unacceptable, he said. For too long, the federal government has ignored the extraordinary housing crisis in our country. That will end when I am president. Sanders' plan seeks to invest $1.48 trillion over 10 years in the National Affordable Housing Trust Fund to build and maintain 7.4 million quality, affordable, and accessible housing units that he says will eliminate the gap in affordable housing for the lowest income renters. It would also invest another $400 billion to build 2 million mixed income social housing units. He also intends to use the plan to end homelessness by prioritizing 25,000 National Affordable Housing Trust Fund units to house the homeless in his first year in office and provide $500 million to state and local governments to help connect the homeless to case management and social services. The Democratic Socialists lambasted corrupt real estate developers for jacking up rent prices and President Trump for cutting federal housing programs. He says he would create an office within the Department of Housing and Urban Development to strengthen rent control and tenant protections and make data on evictions and rent increases available to the public. So just pause for a moment and try to think through the ramifications of this in the event this were codified into law. This would most definitely end housing insecurity in America once and for all, and this actually could literally end homelessness. This isn't a guarantee. We'd have to wait a couple of years to see how this plays out once it's implemented, but this actually has a shot of ending homelessness. And let me explain to you why this is so important and why this is so special. Bernie is doing this out of a place of moral courage, because even if you claim that you are representing, lower class constituents, the downtrodden, people don't talk about homelessness and homeless people because they're not viewed as a real political constituency. I mean, they don't have homes, so you can't send them campaign mailers. It's difficult to get in contact with them. So a lot of times politicians just kind of give up and ignore their needs. But what Bernie Sanders is doing here is he's taking the initiative and he's saying, no, these are Americans and they deserve a home. Every American deserves a safe and accessible and affordable home, including homeless people. And that is absolutely commendable. And it's really touching that Bernie cares about this. Like, you can say just in the abstract that you care about homelessness and it concerns you, but to really come up with a plan that would eliminate it, possibly, this is a next level. I mean, Bernie Sanders is changing the game. And even if this never comes to fruition and never passes, still, he's shifting the Overton window to the left, and he's getting people to think about possible solutions to the homeless crisis. Now, there is that price tag that I already know Republicans will complain about, and some corporate Democrats will say that this is bad as well. But consider this for a moment. If you're concerned about the deficit and the price tag, before you concern troll, understand that giving the homeless homes overall is actually more cost efficient than the current status quo. It will net save us money. And this was based off of research from Central Florida, where a study found that it actually costs 3 times as much to police homeless people and, get them to move certain areas than it does to just put them in a house. Emergency services, law enforcement, that all costs money currently. So we'd spend less on homelessness if we just give homeless people homes. Housing is also a really effective way to reduce alcohol abuse, drug abuse in some instances, and overall, morally speaking, this is just the right course of action because it's difficult to get clean. If you are a drug user and you are an abuser of substances, how do you get clean? And in some instances, maybe drugs is your only escape, you feel, because if you're sleeping on the streets, what are you supposed to do, right? So this is just all around incredible policy, and it's not just about homelessness. So I don't want to overemphasize that, even though it's incredibly important. But housing insecurity is such a huge issue. We have landlords across the country that are overly greedy. People, they need to be secure. They need to feel as if they don't have to worry that they will lose the roof that is over their heads. I mean, it's a basic necessity that nobody's talking about. So there's a number of basic necessities, right? As human beings, we should be guaranteed by right of citizenship, and just as a member of the human race, clean drinking water, healthcare, a roof over our head, basic civil rights and civil liberties. These are things that are non-negotiable. And the way that Bernie Sanders has brought this to the forefront of, political discourse and increased the salience of these issues, it's remarkable. Bernie Sanders has done more to change and shift the Overton window in this country than any politician since Ronald Reagan. And when it comes to left-wing politicians, definitely since FDR. So this is why the more that I see Bernie Sanders run this dynamic campaign where he's constantly putting out policy, I can't help but think it's like he has a plan for everything.